Hello, this is Rev Brad, and you're listening to the Soccer Chaplains United podcast from the Touchline. Today, I have a special guest on the podcast with me, Jordan Medas. Jordan is a senior associate pastor at the Lake of the Woods Church in Virginia, serving that church since 2017. Jordan came to Soccer Chaplains United in 2021, where he served a number of teams and youth clubs regionally in the Orange, Virginia area. Well, just a few weeks ago, we announced Jordan as our East Coast Chaplain Manager, so he's been starting up, working on various projects and helping us to place chaplains and work on things like our new website and different things like that. We're going to talk to him about a little bit of that. You know, with all the soccer events going on, part of our conversations this month are looking at some of the devotional books that we've written for major events, namely the Men's and Women's World Cup. Well, Jordan played a significant role in writing for the 2022 Men's World Cup devotional, so we're going to talk a bit about that as well. A little known fact that we might get into here a little bit because I'm curious to know more about it, but in the early 2000s, Jordan toured the country and recorded several albums as the bass player for the band Carbon Leaf. He even received an American Music Award in 2002, so I have a feeling that's going to come up in our conversation as well. Jordan has yet to play a game of crosses with Rev, so that's definitely going to happen maybe towards the end of our conversation. And unfortunately, Jordan is an ardent Liverpool supporter, but we're going to try and look past that a little bit. I've broken our conversations into two parts, and in just a moment, we kick off with part one.
He's found the space, and he's found the back of the net.
Just a little off foot, thinking he's going to go far post. Not strong enough with his right hand.
Whips that one in. Far post, almost made him ends, and they have. He has the hat-trick. The second in his career. The third of the night. The hat-trick hero.
Talked about you're not going to be able to sustain that kind of pressure.
To the corner. Goes towards the near post. And you're the angle, and what a goal! What a goal!
Jordan, welcome to the podcast today. I'm so excited to have you. This is your first time, and wow, just great to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited and honored to be on your podcast.
Jordan, this being your first time on the podcast, you know, people don't know you as well. So I'd like for you to share a little bit of your background, your story, and how you even came to be part of Soccer Chaplains United.
Yeah, well, how far do you want to go back? Yeah, specific to Soccer Chaplains United, honestly, I came to Soccer Chaplains United as a parent. The funny story is that I thought my son would be a shortstop for the Red Sox. That didn't pan out. He loved soccer, and so did most of my kids. And so, excuse me, being in clergy, it was kind of how can I serve this soccer community? And at our church, the Lake of the Woods Church in Locust Grove, Virginia, we have a corps of chaplains that we train up and send out into the homeless shelter in our area and the free clinic. They serve there. And so it's like, soccer chaplains. And I literally Googled it one day, soccer and chaplains. And of course, Soccer Chaplains United came up first. And so I was like, wow, well, let me reach out to this Brad Kenney guy and just kind of get it. What are you guys about? How can I be a part of that? Because I'm in that soccer community as a parent. So yeah, how can I serve that community in my area?
Well, you know, it's funny you remind me of some of these things, Jordan, because it's rare, but it does happen that people randomly reach out and say, "What is Soccer Chaplains United? How can I be a part? How can you help? How can you do this or that?" And you know, sometimes as we're working on things like websites and apps and doing even like podcasts, it can feel like, is anyone really listening? Does this really reach or affect anyone? But yeah, there's been a few times where someone has simply Googled soccer and chaplain and put those things together. So it does kind of validate, you know, all the work and effort that you feel like goes unnoticed, unappreciated maybe, and you spend a lot of time, energy, and money, and does it really merit anything? But in your case, it does, and I'm so glad that you reached out and Googled. So talk a little bit more about Lake of the Woods Church. I mean, it's quite interesting not a lot of churches that I know train up, develop, send out chaplains and have an idea of chaplaincy. So share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Lake of the Woods Church is unique in several ways. One of the big ways is that we're actually a multi-denominational church. Um, I'm ordained Southern Baptist. Our senior pastor is a United Methodist. One of our other associate pastors is Assemblies of God. And we all work together, serving the kingdom. And we have a lot of meetings where we discuss how we do sacraments and other things, worship services and whatnot. But it's really on our hearts to equip and encourage, to train up those in our congregation to go out, because we can't always be at the homeless shelter or the clinic that we as a church support, to be there and to be a presence at every place we want to be, but we can't. So we realized early on that we need to equip and encourage, and so we have a training course for our chaplains and get them certified through our courses, and then send them out into the community. And sometimes when we have a request for a visitation or a prayer, an invocation at a service or something in the community, we can, if none of us are able to do it, then we can send out one of our chaplains. And we believe very firmly in training them up and doing that. So
That's so great. That's so wonderful. And I wish that was a vision that more in the church would grab hold of, because I think sometimes we say, well, you're the professional. You went to theological school, you wear the clerical robes or the collar or the garments and such. And so I can't do that. We need the professional pastor to come in and do this, and that's not true. And I often relate. People often ask me, "What is chaplaincy?" And I say, "Well, there's a pastor in a church, and usually there's a building somewhere that, if you go on particular days of the week, particular times, you can go and find that pastor in that building. A chaplain is someone who usually goes outside the walls of that building, and they're in the community in some way. They're in a hospital, they're in a workplace, they're in with a sports team, or we could fill in the blank with lots of other expressions of chaplaincy. And that's for me been the beauty of it's sort of that idea of going out. And I love the fact that you guys in your church have embraced that, encouraged that, equipped that, and and just are moving forward with that. I think that's really going to be for your community. That's a beautiful blessing.
yeah, it really has been. And some of it also was logistically, geographically, we're kind of equidistant between Richmond, Charlottesville, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. And some of the different hospitals, like if you call an ambulance, say in Lake of the Woods, you could go 45 minutes in any direction. So
Wow.
some of that stemmed from, well, I'm closer to Richmond, I can't get up to DC, or I can't get over to Charlottesville. So who do we have that we can send for that kind of visitation?
Yeah, Jordan, you briefly mentioned your desires and hopes and aspirations for your son to be the shortstop for the Red Sox, but tell us a little bit more about your family.
Yeah, so I have a beautiful wife, Lisa. She is a docketing specialist for a law firm, and then we have our son who goes to Shenandoah University. He is studying sports management. And then my oldest daughter, Abby, plays soccer, field hockey. She's going to be a senior. Jessie is my second oldest daughter, third oldest total. She's in marching band, and Molly, my youngest, also plays soccer. And so we love being outside. My wife generally on Thursday is planning a hike for us in the Blue Ridge Mountains, or she's thinking about it, if we're not all divided in our different activities. But it's just the kids keep us busy, and we love it. It's a little draining sometimes, but and we know that one day we'll miss it. So we appreciate every aspect of it. For example, like last weekend, I went with one of my daughters to a soccer tournament in Williamsburg, and my wife went with my other daughter to a soccer tournament in Woodbridge, Virginia. So that's the way it is sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, I can attest. Having four children, sometimes you're splitting the carpooling duties or the driving duties, and yeah, we're in similar stages of life. I've got my oldest is at Grand Canyon University, and then my next oldest will go this fall to Grand Canyon. So She's a graduated senior from high school, and then I've got rising eighth graders going into high school, twins. So it's a busy time, as you said, Jordan. And but good to
Yeah.
hear that you and your family, you and Lisa, are at least trying to do that family life as meaningful and as wonderful as possible. So that's really neat. Well, Jordan, some may or may not know, but recently we've announced and you've kind of raised your hand to help out Soccer Chaplains United now as our East Coast Chaplain Manager. And literally, folks, we're weeks on from this. So, Jordan, you probably don't know all that you raised your hand for and all the mess you're getting into. Jubal might have tried to warn you earlier, but yeah, describe for us a little bit about how you see your role so far. What has it been like? What are the things you're looking forward to, kind of with this new role as East Coast Chaplain Manager?
Um, I think part of it is helping you and serving you in whatever way I can. And if that, that part of being those chaplains that serve on the East Coast. And some of it administrative, keeping up with them but I also see it as serving them as well. Jesus had his disciples, and so helping to delegate and to have others help you, I think, is important as soccer chaplains grows, and there are more and more chaplains. So I see it part administrative as far as coordinating with them and their needs, but also the bigger part is in essence kind of being like a chaplain to the chaplains. And I was actually earlier today just having a text exchange with one of the chaplains and an internship that they've got going on, and hey, how can I be praying for you? What kind of resources do you need? And hey, you know what? I just hired 3 interns. If you have any questions about your role there and you don't feel comfortable maybe asking somebody who you're currently working for, and just to be a sound post or another ear, I'm here for you. And to just let those chaplains know, hey, I'm praying for you guys. If there's something you guys need, let me know. I'll try to find the answer to that, or and then also to help you with things that you need to get done, coordinating with them and getting that stuff done.
Nice, Jordan. One of the things that as you were speaking, I was reminded of is back in 2015 when I was leaving, coming off church staff full time and stepping into Soccer Chaplains United. The idea was multiply yourself, Brad. Multiply yourself as a chaplain was the idea. And then as Soccer Chaplains United has grown over the past few years, there's almost a sense of needing to multiply myself as a leader, as a support to the chaplains. And what I love about the work that you and Jubal are taking on, and this is a new thing. I tell the board of directors all the time, hey, I didn't go to business school, so forgive me if I mess it up a bit. I've not also been in sort of executive leadership positions that often. I've usually been just a worker bee, so to speak. I've not been a leader at the churches and the hospice and the other places where I've worked before. So some of these things are new for me, how to lead others. But it's neat to see when you reproduce yourself in a way, or you find others who take on that role, and just even know that you're this extra layer of support to our current chaplains. You're sort of that I'm only a phone call away and not a phone call 2 time zones away or 3 time zones away, right? That becomes a high value add as we look to grow Soccer Chaplains United. And yeah, it's been fun to work with you thus far, and to see some of the fruit even coming out of just a few weeks you into the role. So appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you've done for the organization of Soccer Chaplains United. Like I said, that's something that I can really get behind, and being a part of the soccer community with my family. It's I'm in this place. How can I minister to those in the space that I'm in? So.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, one of the projects we've worked on together before this was the 2022 Men's World Cup devotional. And, for us, this was a first publishing project. And coming up with the World Cup happening over November, December in that year, we knew, and we started talking about as a team, as a group, hey, Advent, Christmas, these seasons are going on. how do we capture this unique time, this unique space? And so I want to get into our conversation talking about this project because for those that don't know, Jordan, you were one of three writers, myself, and at the time, Kurt Trempert, who was the Switchbacks chaplain. And we wrote 8 200 to 250 word devotionals to mirror the weeks of the World Cup and also tie in Advent and Christmas that World Cup 2022 for the men was happening over. So Jordan, I'm just curious, maybe now you would say, man, I raised my hand on that thing. Maybe I wouldn't have done it, but no. What made you want to get in and do some of the writing for this devotional and for this project?
Yeah, so I don't remember at what point I raised my hand, but I do remember some of the early Zoom meetings that we had where we were discussing Advent themes, topics, and corollaries in soccer. And I loved some of those discussions because we all come from our different backgrounds and theological backgrounds, denominational backgrounds. So to have so many people in that Zoom and to really start talking about these themes and how to correlate them to soccer, I thought it was really exciting. And it was just one of those, I just felt the Holy Spirit, like, raise your hand, and it just worked out at a time where I had some time to do that, and I was really excited about the project. So it was like, all right, let's do this. So it's that simple.
Jordan, I think as I thumb through the book a little bit and I look at some of the titles and remember the writings that you've done, there's a couple that stand out to me. Um, Looking for love in all the right places, I think, was one of my favorite pieces that you wrote. And if you have a copy of the book, Jordan, as we got together the three writings, of course, we had some meetings to kind of talk about weekly themes that we were going to tackle. And maybe there was a little bit of organization around, hey, I'm writing on, Luke chapter 2, but there were some other things that just kind of took off individually for each of the writers. And one of the things I love that you did, Jordan, was you kind of went through this. You used the passion and love of music, and you tied it into this theme of love that we had for week 7, which was sort of it involved Christmas Day and the week following, and you tied in love and this music, and you kind of went through a list of some of your personal favorite songs, which, as I read this, I enjoyed thinking about some of these songs. At Last, Can't Stop the Feeling, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and some of the different songs you mentioned about love and looking for love in the right places. How oftentimes as people, we don't do that. We look for love in these places where we end up being unfulfilled. Our expressions of love or our desire, our need to be filled by love goes empty or less than satisfactory. And I just love that you tied in not just the soccer theme, but music, and then the Advent Christmas pieces that we were all waiting for and writing about. I think that was, for me, probably one of my favorite writings that you did, because knowing you and knowing your background with music too, it kind of tied all these things together for you.
And it was fun to write from that perspective. As a bass player, especially Can't Stop the Feeling and Ain't No Mountain High Enough, if you ever listen to those, have really defined bass line, pronounced bass lines. And it was really interesting in the writing of that, thinking, because I was looking through songs in my playlist, and it was like songs that I actually have a playlist of like my favorite bass lines, basically, and those two are on there, and thinking through the lyrics of those songs, and it's like, wow. I mean, and in the arts, especially music, so much of the lyrics is expressing a yearning, a desire, and it's that artist's way of expressing that. And of course, so much of it is love, and so much of it is a relationship love. But there's that ultimate longing, yearning that we all have to be loved, and when we find that in the birth of Christ. So, and we find that in Christ. And then tying that with John 3:16 just kind of. It almost kind of wrote itself in a sense, tying the two together.
Yeah. Yeah. Jordan, for you, was there a favorite week or devotional writing, or was there a favorite bit of the art? Was there anything that captured or captivated you out of the World Cup devotional in a special way?
Yeah, I would have to say probably week 5, which was the emphasis on joy. Um, and looking specifically at Paul's letter to Philippians, and rejoice always in those themes. There's kind of a running joke at our church whenever I have to cover a small group or a Bible study, especially if it's done at the last minute. We're going to go over Philippians, or I'm going to cover Philippians. Uh, from the beginning of the Philippian church, starting from a Jewish businesswoman, a demon possessed woman, and a centurion guard, and this hodgepodge of people, but joy coming from that, and Paul expressing his joy for the gift that they have sent, and just this idea of joy, and joy being so like throughout the theme of Philippians. And I, joy is just one of those things that, from my faith, is an outward expression of my faith, is that natural joy that I have. And I think in ministering to others, that's one of those things I think we want other people to see, that other people to have that joy through their faith. And one of my key verses in life is John 10:10. Christ came to give life and give it in abundance, and a part of that abundance is that joy. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Is one of my other key verses. That Ren Collective song. I can't think of the name of it now. But that idea, the joy of the Lord is my strength, just really resonates with me. And in ministering to others, it's wanting others to have that same joy. So I definitely think that one was kind of one of my favorites to write.
Yeah, and one of the things I love too, Jordan, is this quote that you supplied with that writing from John Calvin, of course, John Calvin, but he says, there is not one blade of grass, there is no color in this world that is not intended to make us rejoice. And I don't think I'd ever encountered that quote, and I thought, man, John Calvin is speaking to the soccer player, right there. When, I don't know if you feel this, sometimes I felt this, I know others feel it, is you drive by a field and you see it and you go, ooh, you could do a soccer pitch there. That looks lovely. That grass looks lovely. Sometimes I think that in along the theme of joy, there are these things, these gifts that God has given us, including our environment, our surroundings. You've got the Blue Ridges, we've got the Rockies, but there's other things too, the beautiful game and the other aspects of life God's given us as a gift to enjoy, and really to point us through that joy to Himself. And so I love the fact that you included this John Calvin quote here. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because as I mentioned, my senior pastor is United Methodist, and so he and I kind of have a thing back and forth where he'll quote a Wesley one Sunday, and then if I'm preaching the next Sunday, then I'll throw in a Calvin quote just to, and some of the congregation kind of laugh and chuckle about it, but we have this thing back and forth, he and I.
Well, we're going to take a short break right now and hear about the revised devotional, which features Jordan and my own writings. It's still available. It's entitled "The Light is Coming," and we'll be back right after this. Hello, everyone. Rev Brad here. I want to quickly tell you about our devotional book, "The Light is Coming." Back in 2022, 3 of us with Soccer Chaplains United, Jordan Medas, Kurt Trempert, and myself, came together to write a devotional for the Men's World Cup. Since then, we've come out with a revised version to make the Devo a bit more timeless. The Light is Coming covers 8 weeks with 3 different readings each week. We've got themes like waiting, joy, peace, love, and more. The Light is Coming. Check it out. It's available on Amazon. You can get it in paperback or Kindle format, and you can read this individually or use it as a small group or team study. If you're looking for some resources for your team, send us an email. We can work out a bulk deal too. The Light is Coming. See how faith can transform our football. So Jordan, it was pretty unique to have the Men's World Cup take place in November, December 2022. A lot of this was due to the fact that the tournament was happening in Qatar. The temperatures were really hot, so FIFA decided we're going to move this into the cooler months. For those that know or don't know, Qatar's a mainly a country with primarily a large part of the population is Muslim. Islam is the main religion. But here you have the world focused in on this unique country, very, very wealthy due to their oil resources. But what was it like for you in terms of following the games, watching the matches, and maybe let me add this caveat in that knowing that at least a few of the athletes that were on certain national teams, the Canadian and the U.S. men's national teams, had copies of the devotional book with them in country while they're playing their games for their national teams in the World Cup.
I remember actually thinking that as my kids and I were watching some of the games, and I think it was just a hope that some of these writings gave a sense of comfort to those players. And as we were in the writing phase, I had to do a lot of taking a couple of minutes to envision, what would I be thinking if I was in a hotel or wherever it was they were staying, had a couple minutes to myself, maybe in the morning before a practice or meeting or something or game, and I was reading this. So I think my hope was that people would find this as an encouragement, or those who were reading it would find it as an encouragement, as they were in a place that they were unfamiliar with. The normal anxieties or nervousness of being in an area that you're just, we get so used to, I know where the grocery store is, I know where this is, and just the familiarity of our surroundings. And then all of a sudden you're somewhere where if you wanted to get a cup of coffee, you may not know where to go get that cup of coffee. And so hopefully this offered some bit of comfort to them, and strengthening in their faith, and so that they receive that encouragement through reading that.
Well, we're going to press pause on the podcast and the interview, the conversation. Come back next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about the devotional. We'll get in a game with Crosses with Rev with Jordan, and it should be good fun. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining me. This is Rev Brad coming to you from the Touchline.